Take me home tonight. I don't wanna let you go till you see the light. Take me home tonight. Listen, honey, just like Ronnie said.
You Made It Weird.
You Made It
Holmes
Weird, Pete
Okay,
Holmes.
Yeah.
Pete Holmes.
Do you listen to the
You made
podcast
it
where
weird.
I have listened to it before.
Yeah.
Weird.
Where at the
Oh,
beginning-
yeah.
Yeah.
You made it weird.
He says at the end of
Yes,
podcast, every
you
podcast,
did.
keep it crispy.
Keep it crispy.
And and I love how he asks all of his guests, what do you think happens when you die?
Yep,
That's
he
great.
sure does.
But anyway, the reason
We're getting
why
deep.
I was referencing that was because when
Are you dying?
he has a guest come in,
Well, everyone's
Well,
dying.
technically.
Yeah.
he's rolling, and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
are we
yeah.
going?" And he's, "Oh yeah." So
Hey, babes like that. Taste buds like that.
That was like
Santino's like that.
The
Bad
Office
friends like
podcast
this.
too. They were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we're like, yeah, we're having a conversation."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chatty
Well,
Cathy's.
then I guess we should start. All right, I'll take this time to welcome everybody to the most recent episode of the official pod of Straight No Chaser. I'm your host, Mike Luganbill. I'm here as always with Seggy and Tyler, the band. Guys, say hello.
Hello.
Hello, it's great to be here.
He didn't say to say that part.
Okay, sorry.
But that's all you have? There's nothing else?
No, it's great to be here. I love
Yeah.
doing this podcast. I'm having a
Good.
great time with my great friends in the group, and it's fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's been quite a week, right? So I was thinking on this episode of the pod, it's the first time that we get to recap the shows like we talked about, right? Because we just got started on the Canadian run. We have some of those shows that are now behind us, which is really fun. But yeah, so I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, so this is going to be the first time that we can actually talk about what we wanted to on the pod in its original idea.
Yeah, I think we were excited about doing another round of the Yacht Rock Tour because we had so much fun doing it last summer, and we were excited about doing these shows again for this short run,
Yeah.
partly in Canada and partly in the U.S. And it's always fun to do these songs that everybody loves. The Yacht Rock genre is it's those songs that everybody can sing along to and dance along to, and it's always nice to.
Yeah, it's a good time to bring it
It's
to
always
Canada.
nice to do it again, and I've had a great time doing this.
Yeah, it's good.
It also made it a lot easier to break in Luke Bob because it was a show we were already good and comfortable with. So it wasn't like we were all learning a new show. So a lot of us could be focused on helping Luke Bob succeed as best as he can. Like with staging, with intros, with the flow of the show, and even his parts in the songs. He's been absolutely crushing it. I think anyone that has seen the show, we've had several chasers out to the shows already. We've had the Michigan Chasers up in Sarnia. We've had the East Coast Chasers out in Portland, Maine, and in Concord, New Hampshire.
I think that's a good way to start because I think we should start with the first show that we had on this run, which was in Sarnia, which is just across the way from Michigan. Oh, what's the city up there, Seggy? That's
Port
right next to
Huron.
Port Huron.
Port Huron.
So you felt like you were in the U.S., even though you weren't. There were still the little things, but that show was great. What I wrote down was I thought it was loose. I thought it was loose in kind of the best way. It was a smaller venue, which is always interesting, I think, for us to do because in the fall we do bigger stuff, but it's nice to go back into a room that's a little smaller to connect with the fans a little more. I thought that show was a nice way to begin this run.
Yeah, totally. It was, like Seggy said, it was a good introduction to our group for Luke Bob.
Oh yeah,
and
because that was his first show.
That was his very
Well,
first
like, official. That
very
was his
first
first
show
show.
in front of people, and he did great. And it was an awesome show and an awesome crowd, and it was like the perfect show for him to get his feet wet and being the bass in the group. And he did a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm.
He is very talented, and it was awesome that he could be part of that.
Also, another thing for people that are listening, Mike referenced that we were in a smaller venue. So in the U.S., we've had, what are we on, 15, 16 consecutive years of touring in the U.S. really hitting these markets at least once a year, sometimes twice a year,
Right.
depending on how close we get in the spring or summer. When we travel abroad, and I understand that Canada is not necessarily abroad, but it is still,
It's overseas.
it's over lake.
It's over.
It's over lake.
Over.
They have their own currency. Okay.
They
That
do.
makes it
They
different
do.
enough.
I have some of it in my.
I
wallet.
still do. I still do too.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it. But anytime we're in Europe or Australia or Canada, we're basically a new act, right? The people there don't know who we are. Like people in the U.S. still don't know who we are on a larger scale. Obviously, we've found our little niche and we have our audience.
I get stopped at the grocery store all the time. I don't know about you.
That's because you're trying to leave without paying. But I'm talking about these smaller venues, and it's always fun because you really have to earn it, because most of the people in the theater don't know who you are. They're just taking a chance on some flyer they saw or Instagram ad or Facebook post or a recommendation from a friend, and they're like, I'll check it out. It's some a cappella group. I'll check
Hey,
it out.
look at these 9 guys in suits. They look nice.
Yeah, I would like to have
I
a
would
drink
like to.
with them.
I would like to go to their whatever they do.
Yeah,
Sail
so
on their boat.
sail on their boat. So when we go into these shows where people don't know us, it's like we're a new thing again, and I feel like it's invigorating. I feel like it injects a lot of energy into the show,
agree.
and that's why we were a little bit loose. That's why all of our European shows are so much more loose than here in the US, because in the US we feel like we have much more of a responsibility to focus a little bit more on the show and keeping it polished, even though I do think that people like when it's unraveling a little bit and getting off the rails and getting silly. But yeah, so that's why we're generally in smaller venues. But Sarnia was great. It was my first time going there without having to go through the wardrobe, because usually I go through the wardrobe and then I'm in Sarnia.
I don't get that. Is that?
Still not yet. No.
No.
So when I go
Okay.
through the wardrobe in my room,
Oh,
He sees a lion and a
That's
witch.
This is a Narnia
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah.
There you go.
From the movie The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which
Yes.
is a book by C.S. Lewis.
wow.
Yes, it is.
I pulled that out of my
Nice.
behind.
I wanted to ask a little bit about when we are in a smaller venue, and also on this run, we only have one bus. So a
Yep.
lot of us like to hang out on the bus in the daytime, and it's a little more difficult this time just because there's lots of people and the venues aren't as large. But I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about the day, like just the normal run of the show day, dealing with
Yeah.
all that, just on the normal, like a show day.
Honestly, we've been doing 2 buses for, I can't even remember how long we've been doing 2 buses, but it's been for a long time. And you know what? This was the first time in a long time where we've had 1 bus with everybody. And to be honest, I didn't really notice a difference.
Yeah.
I really didn't. Like, it was the same. Like,
The venue was nice. It had a couple rooms backstage. There was
I mean,
lots of space. There were no showers
it
though,
was
which
like,
was a little. I thought, which was a little weird. I thought,
you have
know?
your time in the morning where you're getting up and you're getting your stuff and you're going to the venue, but I never felt like it was like, oh, we're on one bus, it's too crowded. I never felt
But
that.
I will say, if there's one thing about a venue that you want, it's hot water and a shower,
And good internet.
and good internet. And in this,
I think
and in this
in
venue,
life, good internet and showers
Sure.
can take you a
Yeah.
long way.
And
Can
in
take
this
you a long
one,
way.
we didn't have a shower, but we had hotel rooms, which is usually how that works. Which isn't always the most ideal thing, but at the end of the day, you're grateful that like you have a shower to go to. But that was one thing about this venue that I was like, oh dang. But also like we're in Canada and we're in like a new place, so
It's also
Fine.
our first tour ever without a tour manager.
oh, that's right.
So our
Yeah,
tour
we
manager
didn't have our tour
is,
manager.
is having a procedure done on his wrist, so he couldn't make it out.
So our tour manager was Steve and,
We're-
and
And
Seggy.
Seggy.
We're fending for ourselves, and
Our second guest ever on the tour. I mean,
Our second guest ever on the
It's
podcast.
our second guest ever on the podcast. Our tour manager, Seggy Isha.
co-tour manager.
Our co-tour managers.
So like doing all like the merch count in and like figuring out where the towels are or
All the mundane
who
stuff,
the
yeah.
runner is, or who's going to pick up Sharpies and all those kind of things. We've been having to. This is the most first world podcast
Yeah, it
episode
really-
ever.
it really is.
But these are,
Seriously, if we don't have enough Sharpies, let's get the out of here.
yeah, let's get out of here. But
It's a deal breaker.
We're having to do all of these little tasks throughout the day, which changes your normal rhythm. Like I
Right.
think, and it is a super first world and privileged to talk about this, but when you're on tour and you find your rhythm, once you get into that rhythm of how your day is going to go, it really makes a difference in the show.
Yeah.
Once you find that tour stride.
Right.
And anytime things take you out of that rhythm, it has a domino effect on the rest of the day and the show. And you're not exactly in the same like mental space that you would like to be because you were doing XYZ before. And this isn't just for tour managing stuff. This is when you've got family in town or you're doing a hometown show or whatever it might be, those kind of things that bump you a little bit out of your rhythm. And I
Yeah.
think it's like our wives always say, the hardest part for them is not when we leave, it's when we come back.
The re-entry, if you will.
The re-entry, because when we come back, they've found a new rhythm, and we come and we just totally destroy that rhythm.
Yeah.
They're like, Segi, you can't just come back into the home and start singing the entire first set of the show. You can't do that.
Yeah, and honestly, like my rider is never available at home.
They never get it right.
They
do
never get it
You
right.
have no gum. You have no
never get it
Gatorade.
right.
We took the gum off.
All right. Okay. So the show's done, and we have a sign line afterwards, and there was a good amount of people in the line, but it was really nice to see, as you mentioned earlier, Segi. You mentioned some of the chasers who were up there from Michigan.
Yep, and Kansas City, Becky Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Shout out.
It's always so nice
Two
to
Beckys
see
and
you
a
guys.
Patrice.
I can't say that I thought that I would see anyone that I knew at that show.
Right.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
so it's always nice to see people that you know in the front supporting and stuff. Okay, so after Sarnia, then we get on the bus and we go to Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls is a place that we all know well.
Mm-hmm.
But this time we were in a new...
Yes, it was very large.
I'll say this. I'll say that just about... I'd say it was the opposite of what we had in Sarnia. This venue was amazing. It was new. The stage was huge. The venue was huge. I thought the show was great. I didn't have a great show that night, I think. I think for a number of reasons. I wrote down, it was an amazing venue. It was new, but the vibes of the show for me were off, I think, a little bit. I don't know if it was because we just did the one set, because we do a
Oh,
one
that's right.
set.
Yeah, we did one set there. For the fans out there, we normally do, as you
Hold
have
on.
come to see shows, we normally do two sets, which is a first set, intermission, and then another set. At casinos and other venues, sometimes they like to have us just do one set. So we do the whole set, which usually is, how long is this? Like
75 minutes, 80
It's
minutes.
between
on that.
75 and
90
90,
minutes,
depending
yeah.
on how long we take in between.
and
And
we take a little break because we have a video or whatever, but usually they want us to do just one set, which is a little bit different for
I don't know if it was that or if it was the second show of the week after a week of rehearsals and a week of stuff, but I didn't really feel it that night. I think the show was good. I think everybody did really well. I just think for me there was like something off. I'm not sure what it was, but what did you guys think of the new venue, and what do you think overall of like Niagara Falls and just the shows up there? Because we go back, we've been there a bunch, and yeah.
well, Niagara Falls has become biggest Canadian stop.
Yeah.
We do really well there, and I think that's why they moved us into the larger room. It's like a 5,000 seat venue. They cut it down for our shows. Excuse me, but it's interesting that you bring that up because I also wrote down that you had a bad show. I will say, in terms of if our fall tour was in that venue, it would have been great. The set we're using now is just a few risers. We're
Small
barely
on that
carrying
stage,
any
yeah.
lights. And it looked like a show for ants. That's a Zoolander reference. For those of you, it just looked so small on this
Humongous
vast,
stage. It
humongous
was
stage
so
that
big.
it just felt silly. It was like, what are we doing here? We look stupid. But the crowd was excellent. The signing line was long afterwards.
Yeah, a lot of merch.
A lot of
It's
merch. Yeah, it was great. And the OLG stage at Falls View Casino is incredible. The staff there, I believe the woman's name was Juliana. She was
Right.
in charge for the day and taking care of us. It
Oh,
was
yeah, she's
incredible.
great. Yeah.
I will say one thing on like a day-to-day basis is that when you wake up and you're at a casino, it's always the hardest thing to find
Yeah.
the hotel room or
Find
the backstage.
where you're going.
right?
Yeah.
It's so
you wake up
difficult.
on the bus and you're like in this garage. Okay, where do I go?
Everything's
idea.
locked. You need a pass to get
you
everywhere.
Need 18 passes to get the key to the other key, which gives you the pass to the stairwell, and then
And in this venue,
and then you can get.
we
to,
weren't allowed in until 1:00, but
Correct.
you got in early, didn't you, Tyler? And then someone
did.
kicked you out.
I was
They were
literally
really serious about
I was
this.
literally in the dressing room doing I was doing work for the group. I was charting. I was doing the song. Like I had my headphones plugged in, and the guy came. And this is like 9:30 in the morning, and the guy came in and he was like, "Hey, we agreed that you guys weren't going to be in here till 1 p.m." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." I was like, "So wait, I have to leave right now." He goes, "Yeah, you got to leave because we don't have any security. We don't have anybody to be here for you guys." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, and they're just doing their jobs at that point.
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
not like they're being.
Yeah.
But
But it was just like it
There's
was
the
just
other
funny
side
because
of
I was
it
like
that's
already
like,
like
all right, this
because
is kinda
usually
stupid.
your daily routine you're like if you're already in the venue you're like ready to go like doing your daily thing, and then he comes in he's like, "Oh, you have to leave. You actually we're like till 1." I'm like, "Okay."
and then
what?"
you have to pack up
Yeah, pack
all
up
of your
all the
stuff
stuff.
that you've already
Already-
laid out.
yeah.
Your computer's out. Like you're out there,
my
right?
computer,
doing
That's
work.
my
why-
dry cleaning, my
That's why you don't unpack things, guys. You keep it minimalist. You pull out your computer. That's it. Maybe a charger, just in
If
case you
there's
need
an
to get out of
emergency, you
there
need to get out of there.
in 5 to 10 seconds.
Need to get out now.
Yep. You grab 2 things out. But yeah, it was cool. They had a bunch of Nerf guns backstage.
That's cool, yeah.
They had a bunch of arcade games. They had an espresso machine. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. While we're talking about let's just get real.
Let's get real. Let's get it real.
Wait,
We have another one to go.
because we're gonna get there. So, was there anything else that you wanted to go?
I don't want
over?
to skip ahead, Mike.
Did you? Was there anything else that you?
I just
hold
wanna
on,
say
hold on,
that-
hold on. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about Niagara Falls or the ULG, or was it the OLG stage?
OLG.
OLG stage.
OLG
I mean,
stage.
I think
Anything else you want to say
I
to
think
wrap
we already
up
said it,
Niagara
but
here?
it was an amazing venue. That venue is pristine. That venue, backstage, stage, everything was just on point. The people
And it was a
that worked-
nice day too.
The people that worked
It was
there
a
were
beautiful day,
on-
which was
oh, beautiful
also
day.
great.
It
And
was-
you went on a walk with Jill.
Yeah, I went to walk
You guys
with
went to
Jill.
see the falls.
Shout out
and all
Jill,
that.
our
Yeah.
choreographer. We went down to the falls and saw. It was awesome. It was an awesome day.
Great.
And I got to say, every time we're there, they'll give us some hotel rooms. Generally, we'll stay the night there, but this time we weren't. They always give us Falls View rooms. They never put us on the back side of the hotel. We always have rooms with
Like,
incredible
literally,
views.
You can see the falls. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't generally like to give Canada a lot of credit for things, but they really do have the more majestic side
They really do.
of the Niagara Falls. So it's always a treat to be able to get up to that room, look out the window 20, 30 stories above the falls, and just see that incredible view. It's pretty awesome.
Okay, so I think now would be a good time to let you know that our friends from Ricola,
Do we have a sponsor?
our
Is this
friends
first
from
sponsor?
Ricola,
This is our first sponsor.
the Dual Action
Yes.
Boys,
Yes,
Dual Action
they're
Boys.
very
the
good.
Dual Action Boys, they have had some thoughts
Okay.
about sponsoring singers, and I haven't spoken to them specifically, but if we did have a spot, this would be the spot where we would do it.
We could call it.
So
Since we haven't talked to them, we'll just say that they are the unofficial official sponsor
There
of
you
this
go.
episode.
There it
they
is.
are.
Ricola.
Dual Action
So if
is
you
the
can,
unofficial official sponsor
Right.
of the unofficial official
right
pod.
now, Sagi, if you can explain to people what exactly a dual action Ricola is.
That'd be great because this would really help us
Sure.
in our
Sure.
in our.
It's a delicious throat lozenge, right? It's
Can you spell that?
LOZENGE, I believe. Can I get the country of origin?
Yes, all around.
It's a cough drop, basically, but it's more so the Dual Action Boys are throat soother. It's a normal hard candy,
Sure.
if you will. And in the inside
Yep.
of the hard candy is a throat cooling gel, soothing gel.
Yeah.
Cooling, soothing, really helps you out when you're singing 7-8 shows a week. Helps just moisten your vocal cords.
Coat the cords down there.
Coat the
Right.
cords
With a nice
down there.
thick
Yeah.
gum. And they have them in honey lemon.
Ooh,
Cherry.
There's
That's
a
right.
cherry
The
one.
var-
I think they've
various
only had those
flavors.
two.
I think there's a blue raspberry now.
Whoa.
Or some kind
and I'm
of
sure
blue
there's
one.
a regular.
Now by
mint
the way,
like
we're about to get
peppermint.
45 of these in the
So.
sign lines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't bring us up. We get them on the rider.
But
Okay. Now we have that.
yeah,
Now we have that sponsorship locked in. Where-
it's locked.
after Niagara, so we get on the bus and we head to Ottawa to the Algonquin Community Center or the Algonquin Community
Algonquin
College.
Commons
College, right?
Theater.
Algonquin
Commons Theater.
But it was at a university.
It was at a university.
At a college, right? Okay. So we
Beautiful
get
campus.
there and I think we were already one step ahead because it was at a college, it was at a campus. And I thought backstage was running, great. There's this one guy, I swear, he might have asked me what I needed like 20 times. I was like, I just talked to you 3
5
minutes
minutes
ago, and now we're talking about my shoes. I have those on shoes too. I'm like, all right, and we're getting into this whole thing. But anyway, they were super nice. The venue was great. It was really big. It had laundry. The show was great.
The gym was
They had
great.
there-
Amazing.
Yeah, the rec center was
They had a
great.
gym like right there, which was what you were saying, Segi, I think earlier about the routine. That's always nice. Like when we have a gym that's right there, so we don't have to we have to run to it or get into an Uber to go to it or whatever. We can just walk it. Right, it's right there. I thought that was a great show. I thought it was a great day, and we got to see Angus, which is one of our
Yep, long-time
Yeah.
Canadian
longtime
chaser.
fans.
Shout out Angus.
He used to come down to the
So,
shore in AC.
He was great. So, what did you guys think about Ottawa? What did you think about Ottawa?
It was great. Like you said, the campus that they had there was beautiful. That campus was amazing, and the show was great. I don't think we've ever been to Ottawa before. That was our first time, so it was nice. It was nice to be there for the first time, and the theater was, like you said, the gym was great. That's all we need is just good showers, internet, and gym. That's probably all we need on tour.
Ottawa was crushing. It was a great crowd. They were super rowdy. For a town that I think we've been there once, but this was like 2010.
Oh,
So we've essentially not been there. It was a really rowdy crowd. I was really surprised and pleased just how much
Yeah,
energy
same.
they gave us back.
Same. I didn't expect
Yes.
that out of Ottawa.
Same.
I think if we were more in the city at a normal in a normal
Downtown setting.
downtown venue, I think it might have been different. But I would love to go back there. I thought it was great.
Totally. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah,
I think that and Niagara Falls were my two favorites.
they were great. Yeah,
I'd like to go back sooner than later. Essentially, is what I'm saying is I don't want to wait.
I don't want to wait.
I don't want to wait.
That's right. We're living a unofficial part.
There we go.
Yeah.
And now we're
Right.
like guys are singing. Jeez.
Okay, so after Ottawa, then we get on the bus, and our next show is back in the US of A, the great US of A.
Yes, Portland, Maine.
In Portland, Maine. But here's the thing. We have to cross the border, right? We leave Ottawa, and let's say we leave at midnight or 1 a.m. Okay,
It's close
I
to
think it was
midnight.
okay, fine. So we leave at midnight, and we cross the border at 3:30. I think most of us went to bed,
Oh yeah.
and then
yeah.
we wake up at what time,
I
and we
don't
go
even
across the
know.
border?
I was a zombie.
Around 3:30. I stayed up.
I was a zombie. I
Oh, you
woke
did stay up?
Yeah, I generally go to bed real late anyway, so I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to sleep at 1:30 or 2 to be woken up in an hour. Might as well just wait
So
up.
we get up, and it literally is probably 2 or 3 minutes that we're inside, and then we get right back on the bus. There was one guy that walked through with a flashlight, and I think they're looking for people.
I was out of it.
They're just looking for anything out of the ordinary.
Exactly.
Yeah, like Mike.
Yeah, they're not looking for. I don't really think they're looking for drugs, or they're looking for. But it's if there's anything that's this should obviously not be
Yeah.
here, like
Yeah.
a person or something.
And I will say, like, anytime Americans go into Canada via the tour bus, it's always much more of a process. Coming back into
Yes.
the U.S. is always a lot smoother. It's-
Obvious reasons.
Oh, you mean
right?
the country that you
We're-
live in? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
probably lots.
yeah. I think also, I don't know. I feel like every time we cross into Canada, they give us a hard time just because they can. Deal
Just like Canada.
because they can.
And it's always late, so
yeah,
so they might be.
they don't want to be there.
not having the best night, or they
Yeah.
might. There's all,
yeah.
Okay, like we get across the border, and we go to Maine,
Yes.
We go to Portland, Maine,
Portlandia.
We've been there in a long time.
Merrill Auditorium,
Yeah.
Merrill.
Yeah.
and what happens at the Merrill
Stays at the Merrill. That's what I
Set-
heard.
set us up for where we are now and for what we're doing the rest of this week. We get to the Merrill. We're so happy to be in the U.S. We're going to have a great show. It's a great little city. I went out. I walked around.
Yeah.
I sat down. I saw Walt out there walking around. It was great. But we hear on Saturday some news about the rest of the tour. And I was thinking, Segi, do you want to lead us through what that was about?
Sure. So it was specifically about Montreal.
Which would be
It
This
was
next
now the
Wednesday.
Yeah.
so the following Wednesday. So this
Yeah.
is
May 8th.
Saturday is when we hear.
Yes.
And
So
that was-
the May 8th show in Montreal was canceled. And we had other two shows, Halifax and Moncton, were also taken off the tour. And Canceled. So, like I was,
Hey, that's what happened.
no,
Fine.
we're getting real here.
We're getting real. It's
getting real
real.
here.
It's unofficial, official. We're real. We're getting
So-
real.
Shows can be canceled for a variety of reasons. Last year, we had to cancel a show in one of the Carolinas because the HVAC system went out and the theater was closed. Another time, the freight elevator was closed in a venue, so we couldn't load in our show, so we had to cancel. It could be weather. We couldn't get out of a city, couldn't get into a city. And then there is the amazing and humbling reason of nobody bought any tickets, which was the case in Canada. And what I was saying before is, no, in a few markets.
Canada, but just
We've gotten very lucky in the U.S. that we've been able to build this really great business for ourselves.
Yeah.
We've put in a lot of time and in investment in all of these markets that we go back to year after year. And unfortunately for markets outside of the U.S., they just haven't become a priority because we're consistently trying to nurture all the markets in the U.S. So it's hard for us to justify not going to specific markets in the U.S. to go back to new markets in Canada or Europe. So because we don't return to these markets often enough, we're starting over every time. And it doesn't matter how big we ever get in the U.S., that is completely meaningless outside. Montreal was a city that was probably one of our stronger Canadian markets early on. And then we just never made it back for so many different reasons. And then we had to start over and we put a show up and people either forgot or didn't care or didn't know who we were and didn't want to take a chance. So that's something that happens sometimes. And then ultimately the call comes down from the promoter. The cancellation isn't coming from us. We would obviously always choose to do a show because no matter how small the audience is, if we get in front of them and put on a great show, that audience will grow. You know what I mean? So ultimately the promoter is going to make that call because they have to protect their money as well. After all, this is a business. So when that happens, we're just at the mercy of the people cutting the checks.
and that sort of leads us to where we are now, which we'll get to. But So for the rest of the day, we met, or everybody was thinking over what the best use of our time was moving forward, because
Right.
at this point we do have another show the next night
On Sunday.
in New Hampshire. But I want to talk about the Portland show. The crowd was amazing.
Great.
It was
Lot of chasers.
It was a noticeable difference
Shout out the
between
Chasers
the
in Portland.
US
They were
and-
awesome.
but between the U.S. shows and
Yeah.
right,
It was our crowd.
it just is a noticeable difference. And I thought the energy was great. I thought we sounded great. I thought Luke Bob, he was really getting into a groove, because you can tell with intros and stuff. It was just a little, I don't know, like he took his time a little more.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like I just thought overall, that was a great show. But
Yeah, Portland was awesome. We had some chasers there, which is always fun to see. And like you said, it's always great to be back in the U.S. and it's just a little bit of a different vibe. Everybody feels that, and when you feel that vibe from the audience, we feel it on stage too. So it's
also, another thing that we had that day that we didn't have yet on the tour, which is like a routine thing also, which is really nice, is catering.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
We had catering that day,
yeah. It's,
which
Steve's still eating that chicken. It's
seems
a must.
still is, which seems like a really silly thing to say, but like when you don't have to leave the venue to eat, it just makes everything so much better, right? I don't know.
It no, I'm with you, and it sounds so funny to say when you're like, oh, it makes my life so much more convenient when they have food for me there.
It's not just that. We're in Concord, New Hampshire,
Exactly.
right? Like
Yeah.
we don't know
Exactly.
what
We
the
don't
good
know the
restaurants
place.
are.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah, good.
Constantly Pizza. It was actually
Shout out
very,
Constantly
very
Pizza.
solid. Maybe they could be the
Sponsor.
unofficial sponsor
There
next
you go.
week. We'll see.
What's up?
But yeah, when you have to go out and just throw darts and be like, I'll try this place, hopefully it's good, and you buy a sandwich or a salad or whatever it might be, and it's meh. Catering
Yeah.
would have been better.
How is that always determined? If we have catering,
I think it's
Segi,
a,
how
it's,
is
a,
that?
it's a budget thing. It's like
that
a
always?
It's generally it's all in the contract. And most of the time when we have a buyout somewhere, that means they just hand you money instead of feeding you. It's for a couple of different reasons. One could be that they don't have the facilities to set up catering. Another could be that there's just not really catering companies in that area that do this kind
Yeah.
of thing. And that's a big one that we find a lot.
And I feel like we ran into that a lot right after the pandemic.
Yes.
Right?
So COVID shut down a lot of caterers.
Right.
It swallowed up a lot of the smaller mom and pop caterers. So on that first tour after COVID, there was a lot of, hey, there's literally no caterers left in this town. So
Do you
here's-
like Wendy's?
Because I always thought, okay, it was like correlated with.
you have to look at it this way. The contracts are done a year
Yeah, way
before the
far,
show
yeah.
is even
Yeah.
thought of. So it has nothing to do with ticket sales, because when Andrea and David are working with the promoters and locking in these contracts, they don't have any info
Yeah,
on how
you're
many
right.
tickets are sold. So most
Yeah.
of it just comes down to, can they provide it?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have caterers in the area that can do it? And can they do that within budget? When you're in a place like San Francisco or New York or LA, the catering is going to be 3 to 4 to 5 times the cost of what it would be
Right.
in almost every other market. So it's not worth it for all of us for them
Yeah.
to provide it. It's just better off less of an expense against the final numbers. Here's a check. Go fund your own food.
Speaking of catering, after show that night, the pizza, wherever that was from, was really
In
good.
Concord?
In Portland,
that
Maine.
was
Otto's.
very good.
I
Yeah.
think
Wherever that was from.
I think that was from Otto's.
really good.
Otto's Pizza.
I would order that again.
Yeah, the hot honey pizza, I think, was one.
We like pizza.
and
It was the meatball and
pepperoni.
ricotta.
That's
was
what
one
it
of them.
was. You don't like ricotta, do you?
No, I'm not a big ricotta guy.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so the next
But
night,
I am
yeah,
a big
sorry.
Ricola guy.
Yes, you are.
Ricola, dual action boys.
Sponsorship right now on
They're not-
Unofficial.
They're not called dual action boys. That's what we
But
call
that's
them.
what we
But
call
they're
them.
just called
Dual
that.
action.
They should.
They
Yeah.
should.
Maybe after they hear this,
Maybe.
because I know they're listening.
Yeah.
So we
know
get
you
on the
are.
bus after the show. The venue was nice. We had showers, all that stuff. And we get on the bus and we
Great.
go to the capital of New Hampshire.
Ooh, that is the capital. Ryan
The
Allward
capital
would be,
of New
He
Hampshire.
would be impressed that we knew that.
Is it
Concord.
Concord?
Concord.
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 Okay.
It was a nice. I
Concord.
mean, it rained the whole day, but it was
It
still a
rained.
nice town.
It rained. It was a buyout again. I wrote down, I thought it was one of the better shows of the week.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
walked
agree.
around.
I agree.
I was able to find a Y that day, so that was nice. And then I went to 3 bookstores.
Okay.
Because after I got back from the Y, I think I was watching golf or something, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go for a walk. So I went for a walk, and I put my raincoat on,
Sure.
or my rain jacket.
It was raining.
I got the hood up,
Sure. Yeah.
because I lost my hat. I still haven't found my
Oh,
hat.
that's right. You haven't found your hat yet.
So anyway,
If anyone can find Mike
know.
Luganbill's
So I'm walking.
Lululemon Rose Bowl hat,
I know.
it's on our bus somewhere.
It's a mystery. So I'm walking.
It's a mystery.
And I found a bookstore, and I walked through the bookstore. It was the second bookstore this week, because I did it the day before. Because
You're
in Maine.
so smart,
No,
Mike.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. I go in there. I look. I walk around and have coffee.
Sure.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't walk out with a book either time.
That's okay.
Yes, it's okay. But I was thinking to myself, why did that happen? I went in there and I was like, I want to get a book. I want to get a coffee and I want to find a book. And I was looking at like memoirs and
Of a geisha?
other stuff, biographies and stuff. And I probably held about 8 to 12 books and looked at the back and did the thing, but I didn't leave with any. And I was like, why do I do that? I should have just gotten one and been
'Cause-
like, I'm going to commit to this.
Because you're going to go home and just buy it on Amazon.
No, I'm not going to though. Because if I couldn't, because I
But
couldn't make
it
a
was
decision
about the experience,
in
Mike.
the
it was
store
about the
itself.
experience. You in the store having a coffee, looking
Yeah.
at books.
But I should have walked out with the book.
Well,
It's
hey,
because you thought you were in a
so-
romantic
hey,
comedy.
You know what? Hey, you know what? You knew which books you.
It was raining outside.
You know what? You knew which books you didn't want to pick.
I just didn't know. And I think the issue is with reading, I think
It's hard.
in general, is that
Was there no books on Taylor Swift?
it's hard is that it's hard to get once you get into the book, then you're in.
Right.
It's you have to break the wall or like that seal.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to turn the page. You know what I mean?
So let me get this straight. So when you get a book, you have to turn the page.
Allegedly.
Okay. Allegedly. Shout out, hey babe.
So my takeaway from that whole thing was you watched way too many mid to late
Yeah.
90s rom-coms. You were waiting for Meg Ryan to come in
Seriously, yeah.
or Tom Hanks and be like, hey, you've got mail. That's what the movie was
that
called.
just aged us.
I said the years.
Yeah.
I love the
I
idea
got the
of books.
coffee though. I got the coffee.
Yeah.
From the
So-
bookstore?
What?
Was it a black coffee?
It was just a black drip. Just
Boom.
how
good.
it was meant to be drunk.
I like black coffee.
How it was
How
meant
the
to be
Lord
drunk.
intended.
Yeah. So I walked back, and I was thinking about it the whole walk back. It was like about a half a mile, and I was like, that was a waste of time. And I thought it wasn't a waste of time because I got out of the venue. It was raining, and I got a coffee, and it had already worked out. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go do this. And it was just like a thing to do.
yeah.
It's just I'm
Oh,
gonna go look at a bookstore for an hour.
Can I tell you something? So I used to have this problem where I could not walk into a store and not buy something.
Really?
I swear, because I would feel bad.
When cool.
My-
hold
my-
on.
You
when
looked over
when
all-
did this
all their
start and
stuff.
when did this end?
It was like my mid 20s. So a couple of
So, like,
hilarious
40 years
examples. Yes, 40 years ago. When I first moved to LA and I was in grad school at USC,
Beep.
I went to Rodeo Drive with a buddy.
As everyone does.
And I had no money. Like I had no business being on Rodeo Drive, even just to hang out. and we walked into the Dolce and Gabbana store,
Oh my gosh.
and my friend that I was with also had no intention of buying anything, but I had this problem. I couldn't not buy something. So I found a pair of glasses I liked, and I was like, oh, these are amazing. I'm going to buy them. They were $450. Okay. So
No, you did not.
I charged my credit card.
Oh my.
Hold on. But there's another side of this story. So, and this happened like multiple times. And they package it up real nice. They're super kind, and they walk you to the door. And I left, and I get back to my apartment, and I was like, what am I doing? I can't afford this. This is so dumb. I went back.
Did you take him back?
I went back the next day. Hold on. First, we're getting real here on the unofficial official
Yeah,
pod.
we're getting real. Jeez.
First, I peeked through the window to make sure the same person wasn't working because I was embarrassed. I saw it was a different person, and I walked in and I returned the glasses. And that happened to me multiple times, like in my life.
Wow.
Would you have returned them if it was the same
No, I would have kept going back, waiting.
person?
I would have kept going
Really?
back.
What's
Yeah.
wrong with you?
Because you felt
I
so
was
embarrassed.
because I was embarrassed. Like I had no business being there in the first place.
$450
Yes,
sunglasses.
so dumb.
Oh my gosh.
But ultimately, you return them.
Yes, I returned them
Okay.
the next
yeah,
day. Yeah.
The next day.
because I get home and I come to my senses. And I'm like, "What are
Yeah.
you doing, bro? You don't have any money. Like you're in grad school." Like,
But in the moment,
I still knew.
what
I
did
didn't
you
have-
get out of it?
I wasted
on
someone's
this-
time. I don't
on
know.
This,
I
well,
was
no, it was like you wanted to be seen
I
as like this
wasted-
guy that was like.
no. I
I
just
mean, I don't know what.
I just always have this. I always felt this
that's what you-
pressure.
that's
like,
right. That, yeah.
I have to buy something because it's rude to go in a store and not
They
buy
look
something.
over their stuff.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
be
let me
like-
check out your stuff.
That's why I say
it
thank
all
you on the way
sucks.
out.
I'm leaving.
I always say thank you on the. I'm like, okay, thank you. Even if I don't.
Thank you. None of your things were worthy of my money. But that's how I always felt. So I would,
450 sunglasses? No, thank you.
same thing happened to me.
Actually, thank you.
Thank
and
you.
then
Thank
no,
you. And then no, thank you.
Same thing happened to me like a week before or later at French Connection. I bought a sport coat. It was like $300, and I was like,
This is
dude.
dumb. Yeah, what am I doing?
I was like,
Yeah.
get yourself out of French Connection,
Nice.
take
Yeah.
yourself to Marshalls,
Yeah.
and find that same $300
They have
jacket.
great
I
sport
love
coats.
that.
That was great.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm a big Maxinista.
What's that? TJ
TJ Maxx, yeah.
TJ Maxx.
TJ Maxx,
That's
Ross,
great.
Marshalls. You
TJ
can always
Maxx.
find good stuff there. Burlington, which we're going to soon.
So the end of the week, the show, when everybody knows that it's the last one, has the potential to get a little wild
Little
and
loose.
crazy,
Little bit.
little loose.
It's
And
just- I will say,
and I thought
Go
that
ahead.
the end of this week, I thought the show in New Hampshire was really good. I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
it was loose, but it wasn't slop. Like it had the, I know we're going to be off now for the next 3 days feel.
Right.
But I thought the crowd was great. I thought the room was cool. I don't really
First
remember
time
us ever
there.
being there.
First
Yeah.
time there. We played
I thought it was
We
Portsmouth.
played Portsmouth, yeah.
That-
and,
oh, yeah,
and
that's right.
Manchester.
Shout
That's
out
right.
Portsmouth.
Okay.
Portsmouth, I will say.
Which we're coming to in the.
I will say,
in the summer.
so we did the Yacht Rock tour last summer, and most of our shows were outside, and it was such a cool vibe because of Yacht Rock and people having fun and doing all these things and dancing and blah blah blah. And I literally thought to myself, like, I don't know how these inside shows are gonna go because the Yacht Rock's got such a vibe of being outside. So we did this show in Portsmouth last summer, and that was one of my favorite shows of all time.
We worked hard that show though.
How about of all time?
We worked hard to.
We did, but it
bring
was
them-
so
yeah,
fun. Like they
it
were
was,
dancing
yeah.
in the aisles. Like that crowd was amazing. Oh my gosh!
there
Shout
was
out. Shout
there
out
was
Portsmouth.
there was one fan at that show who was not too keen on the people dancing down front.
Really?
Yeah, she knows who she is. She's,
I don't
she's a
remember
chaser,
that.
and
I don't.
I give her gruff for this a lot.
Who is it?
She knows who it is. We're not on camera. I'll tell you afterwards. She knows
Okay.
who it is. She's gonna get a kick out of this.
Anyway,
Good.
she'll get a kick out of it.
It's
but
all in
Good.
jest. It's all in jest.
I'm
That's
just
good.
saying that was one of the
Yeah.
most fun shows on that tour. People were.
You're saying that
insane.
shows in New Hampshire are always amazing.
always amazing, and
And
Concord
the people
was,
there are
was-
great.
Was just like
Live
that.
free or die. No sales tax.
That's why they live there.
Live. No, that's what their license plate says. It
Oh,
says
does it?
live free or die.
Yeah,
no
they're
sales
huge
tax.
James Bond
It
fans.
says live
great.
free or die, no sales tax.
No, it doesn't say that, but there is no sales tax, and it's awesome.
Nice.
Okay, so we do the show, and the show's great, and we wrap up and we hop on the bus and we drive to New York City, outside of New York City.
Outside of New York.
We are
Secaucus.
in Secaucus, New Jersey at the moment. We, as we tape this, it is Tuesday, May 8th.
7th.
May
My
7th.
wife's birthday. Shout
Today
out
and
my wife.
tomorrow are
And
special days for the
we-
group.
yeah,
for
that's right.
certain members of the group.
We have there's a lot
There
of
are
birthdays, a lot of mothers.
There's
who
one
have
Mother's
days.
Day, but there's
A lot of mothers.
many mothers for
A lot
the
of
Mother's Day.
One
Joey
mother's-
has a birthday.
Many a mother for the
This
Mother's Day.
Everyone has a birthday.
But so anyway, so we're here in Secaucus and we have a couple days off because we're not doing the Montreal show on Wednesday. So we are working on music for the EP that we're going to release
Yep.
for the 90s show this summer. I just did a session with Freedom about an hour ago and it went really well. And Luke Bob was on there. He lives in New York, so he got to go home for these couple days. What are you guys thinking about what we're going to do over these next few days and what we can accomplish with the EP and getting that ready for the shows in the summer because we don't have a lot of time.
Right. Yeah.
It's been the next
I would
month
just say
or
it's
so.
nice that we have, somebody like Freedom that can, do this on the road, and he's always
likes doing it too.
likes
right?
doing it
Yeah,
too,
he
and he's
loves
always
it.
available to record stuff. And he, once we heard that this show was going to in Montreal was going to be canceled, he was like, let's see if we can knock out a bunch of this EP with some guys that are going to be here and want to stay, which is what we've done. So it's nice to do that, and nice for him to be able to be the engineer and all that. So.
And also, it's not been all work. We did get to go out last night.
That's
We went
right.
to the Comedy Cellar, which was really great. Segi always is the one who makes sure that we have reservations, and it's become a thing for us now on our or like whenever we're like around this area to go to the cellar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite places in the
Yeah.
world. And we're always here generally off on a Monday. And, early to midweek nights are a great time to go to comedy shows in LA or New York because you're going to have much more of a potential for really big name A-list drop-ins, the Chappelles, the Seinfelds, and everyone else in between. And it's just fun just to go sit down. They lock up your phones so no one's distracted.
That was nice, actually.
Yeah.
I like that.
It is nice, yeah.
You're
I
not
like
distracted.
that.
You're not checking the scores. I know you had the Pacers
the
game
Pacers
going,
last
so it's
night,
probably
yeah.
tough to be like, not know what's happening. Just sit back, relax, have a drink, watch some amazing comedy, maybe have a chocolate cake and ask for a glass of milk.
Oh, that's an inside joke that we are going to laugh about later.
It was a great
That
show.
was one of my favorite things I've ever
It's-
witnessed.
it
by the
was
way.
awesome.
One we know.
Did that.
They didn't have milk because, of course,
They didn't have
don't
it.
have milk. It's a
The
comedy
Cellar
club.
didn't
He had
have
Bailey's
milk,
instead.
which is a good alternative.
Sure.
The doctor
Take
would
Bailey's.
disagree, but for general evening purposes, yes. But yeah, it's become our tradition. Like every time we're in New York and we're off, we hit the cellar. We've been fortunate to see a lot of amazing comics. The three of us listen to a lot of podcasts, and a lot of them are hosted by comics. So they give us a lot of content for free because the podcasts are free. So it's a nice way to give back. Go to see them on the road,
Yeah, it's been great.
see them at the Comedy Cellar or the Comedy Store in LA. So it's always a good time.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, tomorrow's going to be a hilarious day for me.
Oh, that's right. You're going home in the morning, aren't you?
I have a 6 a.m. flight home. I'm going to go home and surprise Leo and Mila. Leo's birthday's tomorrow. Mila's birthday is
You're such a
on
good
Mother's
dad.
Day. We lucked
Worked
out because
out,
I was
yeah.
supposed to be in Montreal. So
Yeah.
I'm going to fly home tomorrow morning, spend the day with them, and then fly back tomorrow night to catch the bus to head up to Burlington, Vermont.
Because we're doing
Television.
Television.
TV in the morning.
Yep, we're going to be on How I Met Your Mother.
I don't get it.
That's where they tape it?
Yep,
Really?
we're going to be on an episode of How I Met Your Mother.
Oh,
in,
that's cool. I
in
didn't know
Burlington,
that.
Vermont.
Brilliant. And get some free coats.
They call it the local news, but we all know it as
Okay.
yeah.
Nice. Okay, then. Then I know you have an early out in the morning.
Dude, 4:30 a.m.
So we're going to wrap up. Where are the shows the rest of the week? We have
2 shows left.
2 more shows.
Yep. We have Saturday in I don't know if I'm
Maine?
Orono. Am I
Orono?
pronouncing that right?
I don't know.
Orono, Maine, which is very close to Bangor.
Okay,
And then we finish up on Sunday in Burlington, Vermont.
great. So we will have another pod at the end of this week, and at the end of that one, we'll let you know what the plan is moving forward as for when we're going to release.
And as always, we would love if you would subscribe or like and follow our unofficial official podcast on Instagram and on we're on Facebook too.
We are on
We're on
Facebook.
Facebook, yeah.
And in addition to that, if you want to be a part of the show, fire us an email at unofficialofficialpod@gmail.com with any questions or comments
We'd
or
love 'em.
various banter. Rich, if you got jokes, send them in. We'll read them
Please,
live on the
please,
show.
Rich.
But yeah, and I do have to say, there was another kind of momentous thing that happened this week for the group.
Ooh.
We announced our fall tour,
Yeah.
Top Shelf.
Top shelf.
All those dates are up. And
All right
for
now.
those of you that are actively complaining on Facebook that we're not coming to your town, specific towns that we come to literally every year, just be patient. That's all I'll say. But all that info is at sncmusic.com as always. So yeah, we're here.
Thank
we're
you
having
so
a great
much.
time. Thank you for joining us. I love you.